When I was a child, we used to have some Rubik's brand cubes around the house, and I never learned to solve them. My family members could do it, and as I later learned in life, they had just memorized some beginner techniques and were able to solve the cube without really understanding what they were doing. And as a result, this made me feel kind of dumb, which is not really a good way to look at it, considering I could code a TRS-80 in Z80 binary and hex code and do several other amazing things, I think, in retrospect. But not being able to solve a cube when I was young, when my other family members could, didn't make me feel the best. In March this year, my 7-year-old son received an original brand Rubik's Cube as a birthday present. And after the mess was all cleaned up from the party and we were sorting through the presents and we opened this, my original first reaction was, ugh, this is going to go into the box of toys that the kids never play with, because I never learnt to do the cube as a child. But then I looked at it and I thought, this is it. This is my white whale. This is my mountain. I'm going to learn to solve this. And looking around online on YouTube for a couple of videos for beginner's method, I found it surprisingly easy to solve. The beginner method that JPerm uses has about 7 different algorithms in it, and they're fairly easy to learn. And from there, I was kind of hooked. It became something I try to do now every day. And I try to practice my cubing and my algorithms and going to competitions, which is something I never thought I would do when I was a child, looking at these infernal 3x3x3 Rubik's branded cubes. I had no idea when I started Speedcubing this year that it was so popular. The New South Wales competition we went to earlier this year had 500 competitors in total, which was a crazy number of people going to do 3x3 cubes, and a lot of them were first-time cubers. A lot of kids, a lot of adults, a lot of teenagers, a couple of grumpy old people like me, but it was amazingly popular. The YouTube channels, the cube shops, there's just an amazing amount of community now around Speedcubing that I didn't have a clue existed before this year. And I'm sure for other things there's also other communities as well, but a plastic toy from the 1980s that was awful and a horrible part of my childhood growing up has now become the most amazing thing in the world, for me and for lots of others. My 7-year-old son has also started cubing, and I wonder sometimes if he's doing it because I do it and I'm interested in it and he wants to copy me, or if he's genuinely interested in continuing to do it and continuing to improve. He did learn the beginner's method, and his best time actually in a comp, which was his best time overall, was 57 seconds. After that comp, earlier this year, I got him a new cube and got him to start learning better algorithms, or more productive algorithms. And just recently his best time was 44 seconds, which absolutely amazed him. And so he's learning that putting in a bit of hard work will improve his times. And I hope to see him get sub 40s, sub 30, maybe even sub 10 someday as he gets a bit older and starts to learn more and more algorithms. After 3x3, hopefully he'll pick up some other ones like the 4x4 or the Scube or the Pyraminx or whatever, or the 2x2 as well. But for now we're just focusing on the 3x3. One of the main reasons I practice, and I try and get my son to practice, is it's a really good calming concentration effort to get better. The world we live in has got many distractions and many hyped up activities that are immediate and now and go, 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 and trying to get better at the cube takes quite a bit of work. Sitting down, repeating the action, learning, getting better. And I hope that through this, other things in his life will improve. I've noticed now that he will sit down and read books, and sit down and read them fully as opposed to just flicking through pages or looking at pictures or whatever. And I hope this also flows through to other aspects of his life, his schoolwork and his home life. There's a surprising sense of satisfaction the first time you learn to solve a Rubik's Cube, whether you follow a simple beginner's method or get someone else to show you how to solve it, or you read something, or you just brute force work it out for yourself, which is probably the most impressive way to do it. But being able to do it and solve the cube again and again and again, to be able to beat that challenge, I think is an excellent, an amazing feeling and sensation to have. In Zen, there's an idea where by repeating the action that you're trying to improve again and again and again in a non-mind state of awareness can bring you to a heightened state of understanding of that process and an ability to do it much, much better, being one with the process. I'm nowhere near that level with cubing, but it's something I do think about as I solve, whether or not there's a meditative quality to solving that can be achieved in order to get to those levels of extreme ability, much like an archer or a sword fighter or someone else, where you essentially just become the object that you're working on. I've been using computers and programming since I was about 10 years old. My first computer was a Tandy TRS-80, and I learnt basic programming language on that, and eventually learnt through a book and trial and error Z80 by entering hex code directly into the editor. And for me, working with computers and computer language is like a second language. There's an academic theory called second language acquisition about how we learn a second language. And somebody who grows up with a second language in their home or community, whether it be English or Japanese or whatever, has a different working brain and a different ability to deal with languages as opposed to someone who learns it as an adult. And I sometimes look at these younger people who solve cubes, and there's one cuber particularly that I quite like called Timon Kalecki from Poland, and he's the third fastest in the world now with the 3.9 seconds solve just recently in the European Championship. And the way he solves a cube is a little bit different to everybody else's. He still does CFOP, but his patterns and his mechanism for solving, I think, is quite different to everybody else's. And it's not just raw speed, but he can look at a cube, I think, and can read the cube. And he treats the cube the same way I treat computer languages, or an artist treats art, or an engineer treats an engineering problem and finds a solution for it by having that long-term experience and exposure to it. Rubik's cubes, the 3x3 cube, has trillions of combinations, and at the end of the day there's a lot of mathematics that go into it. And I sometimes wonder if a higher level of understanding of the math can help me solve the cube. For the 3x3x3 speed cubing competitions, I think not, but I suspect with the least count move competitions, where you have a bit of time to sit down and actually think about your solution, that maybe understanding the math will actually improve the solution, as opposed to just randomly twisting and turning looking for certain specific combinations of blocks that fit together. Where do we go from here? What do we learn? What do we take away? Well, nothing really. There's no overall life lesson we can learn from this. It's no cat poster. There's no moment of truth out of all of this, I think. Which is a bit of a Zen thing to say, because it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, which is a cat poster anyway. But for me, and I think for us, it's just fun. Apart from everything else I've said, at the end of the day it's fun, and if it stops being fun, then I'll probably stop doing it. But at the moment it's fun, and I like the challenge, and I like putting the work in to get the results.